Alright, good afternoon guys. We're going to go ahead and start on 3.3 slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form, you should know this very well. It should be y equals mx plus b. As a review, m is going to be our slope. B is going to be our y-intercept. Okay, so we're looking for understanding what is our slope and the y-intercept, and we're going to look at this through tables, through graphs, and through points. So let's start with graphs here. I think this shows us a better understanding of how we're going to use this slope-intercept form. So if we start with this, let's look at the first example right here. I have a line crossing, and the first thing you should notice is what's going to be our y-intercept. Our y-intercept is where this line right here is crossing the y-axis. So here's our y-axis. Our intersection between those is going to be right here. So we're going to use that intersection as our B. So for this first example, we're going to go ahead and say that y is going to equal to, and this point right here, that's going to be known as our y-intercept. And our y-intercept is known as B, so B is going to be 0. So we're going to go ahead and write down that B is going to be 0, so we'll just put here plus 0. Now the next thing is we need to find our slope, our m. So m, our slope, well, that's going to be rise over run. So let's look at our rise and run. So the next thing we need to do is we need to find another point on this graph. So here we know it's passing through 0, 0, and then we look around for when it's crossing between the intersection of a unit here, which should be around right here. And you could probably see one right around right here. And I can even go down. There's another intersection here, and another intersection there, and another intersection there. So we can use any of these. So I'm going to go ahead and use the closest ones. So what I want to do is go from my y-intercept and get to one of the first points. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one. Okay, so I'm going to use this point right here and the one in the center as our 2 points. So we want to find our rise and run. Okay, so our rise is, again, remember, we're going from left to right to find our slope. So our rise is going to be 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be plus 3. So we're going to go ahead and write 3 for the rise. And then it's going to the right, and the right will always be positive, so that's going to be plus 2. So that would be a 2. So our slope is 3/2. So we're going to go ahead and use that slope, and we're going to go ahead and write it as 3 over 2. And we're going to put an x because that's what we put here at the end. So our equation should be y equals 3/2 x plus 0, or we're just going to write it as y equals to 3 over 2 x. Now let's go on to the second example here. So we got to see where this line, this is crossing the y-intercept, which is this one right here. We want to know where it's touching here. So we know that it's going to be crossing right here. So that's going to be our y-intercept. So our y-intercept is right here. We're going to call that our b value, and b is our y-intercept. That's going to be the value of plus 2. Now we need to locate other points. There's an intersection. So notice that there's one occurring here. Go down the line. You notice there's an intersection happening right here. Notice there's another one here. And going up, one here, and so forth. So we just want to find the slope. So to find the slope, we're going to use rise over run. So our m is going to be rise over run. So m, and let's go from one point to the other. So if I go, doesn't matter which way you go, as long as you go from left to right. So I can go 1 this way, and then 1, 2 down. So this is plus 1 to the right, and then minus 2 because we're going down. So that means our rise and run is going to be, run's going to be -2, and our rise is going to be 1. So let's go ahead and now write this as an equation. So y is going to be our slope m. M is going to be -2 over 1 plus the value of our b, which is 8, 2. Now we can get rid of the, and I forgot the x here, let me put that right here. So what we want to do now is get rid of this 1. We don't need the negative 2 over 1. We just want to write it as y equals negative 2x plus 2. And there's our equation for the second one. Let's look at our third one right here. Again, we're looking for the intersection. The intersection is between the y-axis, that's this line right here. Remember, this is our y-axis. And we're looking where the line meets. So that's going to be right here. So that means that b is going to be negative 4. So we know our y-intercept is going to be negative 4. Now let's look for other intersections between these little squares where the units meet. So it's going to be 1 here, and so forth. It seems to be jumping every 2 here. Going down, okay, here's some other intersections. So we're going to go ahead and use these points. Rise over 1. Our rise, well, let's see, we go up 1, so that's a plus 1, and then we're going to go 1, 2, so it's going to be plus 2. So that means it's a up 1 and plus 2, so the rise is 1, our run is 2. So we go ahead and write our equation. Y is going to equal to 1/2 x, and then our y-intercept, that's the b value where it touches at negative 4, so minus 4. And that's going to be our function for that one. So that's what's going to be the unit. So let's go ahead and look at some more practice problems here. Okay, so for problem 1, we're going to identify slope and y-intercept. This is probably the easiest thing to do. What are the slope and y-intercepts of the graph of the linear function y equals 5x minus 2? Well, all they're asking is that you identify the slope. Well, the slope is going to be that number, the 5. So we're going to go ahead and write down that our slope is going to be 5. So we're going to go ahead and write 5. That's going to be our slope. Okay, well, our slope is the same as our rate of change. All right, next thing, we want to find our y-intercept. Well, our y-intercept is going to be the number at the end here, which is going to be a negative 2. So, okay, so if it has a negative, you're going to use a negative. If it's a positive, you use a positive. So this is a negative 2. Our b value is going to equal to negative 2. So that happens to be our y-intercept. And I'll just keep it short, our y-intercept. Okay? All right, so there's problem number 1. Let's go on to problem number 2. Writing an equation in slope-intercept form. What is an equation of a line with a slope of negative 4/5 and a y-intercept of 7? Well, now we're working backwards from problem number 1. We were given the equation and we needed the slope and y-intercept. Now they give us the slope and y-intercept. Find the equation. Well, let's go back to the equation. The equation is y is going to equal to mx plus b. Well, our slope is our m, so we're going to go ahead and just write somewhere on the side that m is going to equal to negative 4/5. Our b, our y-intercept, well, that one's going to be the 7, and that's a plus 7, so it's just going to be 7 there. So we're going to go ahead now and put this together on our equation. So y is going to equal to negative 4/5. And then b is a 7, so that would be plus 7. Simple for problems 1 and 2. Let's go on to problem number 3. Okay, for problem number 3, we're going to write an equation from the graph. So this is exactly what we did in the very beginning of the video. Which equation represents the line shown? So we are given multiple choice and we have to find out which equation fits one of these functions. Okay, so very simple. Let's start first with our y-intercept. So remember, y-intercept is going to be where this line, the y, crosses the line of the function. So that means it's going to be right there. So our answer has to be with a b of negative 2. So I'm just going to go ahead and write this down here on the side. So our b has to have a negative 2. So if I go through these, I can cancel out a and I can cancel out b because those don't have the negative 2 that we need, and these have the negative 2. So we need to go down to those either C or D. Now the next thing is we need to find our slope. To find our slope, we're going to start at this point of negative 2 and then we're going to go all the way to this point over here where 2, 2 is. So we're going to go ahead and count the number of points. So from left to right, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 up, so that's going to be plus 4. And then we're going to go 1, 2, plus 2 to the right. So our slope, m, is going to be rise over run. Our rise is going to be plus 4 because it's going up, and our run is going to be plus 2. Well, we can reduce 4 over 2, and we're going to make m equal to positive 2. So our slope is going to be a value of 2. So putting everything together, our equation should be y equals, our slope is 2, so it's going to be 2 times x, and then our value of b is a negative 2. So there's our equation. That means that c is out, and therefore our final answer is going to be D. Okay, that one's pretty easy. Now let's go on to problem 4. This one takes a little bit more time. Write an equation from 2 points. What equation in slope-intercept form represents the line that passes through the points 2, 1 and 5, negative 8? Okay, so now we're going to use our previous skills of finding the equation with 2 points. So what we're going to do, the first thing we need to do is we're going to label these points. So I'm going to label this as x1, y1, and then we'll call the 5 and negative 8 as x2, y2. And the first thing I want to do is I want to use the slope formula, which is m equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So we're going to go ahead and substitute those values in and find the slope. So y2 is going to be the value of negative 8. So we're going to put negative 8, I'm going to put parentheses over this, minus, and then inside we're going to put in y1 inside the parentheses. Y1 is going to be our value of 1 right here, so we're going to put a 1. We're going to divide all that by x2. x2 is 5 minus the value of x1. x1 is 2. So we're going to reduce this here. So we have negative 8 minus 1, because nothing changes on the 1 here, so it's a minus 1. 5 minus 2, so 5 minus 2. All right, so now we're going to have negative 8 and negative 1 is a negative 9. Over 5 minus 2, well, that's a 3. Now we can simplify this, and this is going to give us a value of negative 3. So our slope turns out to be negative 3. Now, what we're going to do now is our next step is we're going to use the equation of y equals mx plus b. And what we're going to do is we're going to plug in the slope. So we know our slope. Our slope is already the value of negative 3. So we're going to plug in negative 3 here. Okay? And then for x, well, we have an x. We can use 2 or 5. So let me use 2. It doesn't matter which one you use. You can use this point for your x, or you can use this point. But once you choose that point, that's the one you want to use. So I'm going to use the 2 here. Okay? I'm going to use the 2, so that means I'm going to plug in a 2 for x. And then the y, well, I have a y. The y is going to be the 1 here, because I already chose 2 for x, so I'm going to use for the y, I'm going to use the 1. So I'm going to plug a 1 right here. If I had chosen the 5, then I would put a 5 here, and then the 8 would be over here. So I chose this as my point x and y. So now let's go ahead now, put down the b here, plus b. And now we can solve for b. So we're going to end up with 1 is going to equal to negative 3 times 2 is a negative 6 plus b. So now I can solve for our b. So we're going to go ahead and add 6 on both sides. 6 is going to cancel. And we get 7. 6 plus 1 is 7, and that's going to be our b. So b is going to equal to 7. So now we're going to put our equation together. So y is going to equal to our slope, which was a negative 3, x, and then our b was a 7, so we're going to put plus 7. This is how we solve for finding the equation given 2 points. Okay, let's move on to the last problem. All right, for problem number 5, it's very easy. We're going to now work backwards. We're going to graph the linear equation given that the graph is y equals 2x minus 1. So we need to identify our y-intercept. So let's go to our y-intercept. So remember, our equation is y is going to equal to mx plus b. So therefore, our y-intercept is going to be the value of this, which is the -1. So we're going to go ahead and say that b is going to be our -1. Now, our slope m, well, that's the value in front of the x, which happens to be the 2. So that means that m, our slope, is going to be 2. Now we're going to use this information to graph our equation. So b is our y-intercept. Remember, this is where our y touches the y-axis. So I'll just write down here, this is our y-intercept. So we're looking at where the y-axis, okay, that's where it's going to be at. So our value of b is -1, so we're going to go down to -1. Here's 0, here's -1. So it's going to pass at this point right here. Our line's going to cross at that point. Okay? Now, the slope is 2, and it is a positive 2. So remember, this is a positive. So that means that our slope will be going up from left to right. Okay, so we know it's going to be pointing up. Okay? Our slope is 2, or really think of it as 2 over 1. That way, our slope, m, for a rise and run, is really plus 2 over plus 1, because it's a positive. Remember, the run will always be positive. The rise is what it's going to tell us to go either up or down. So we know we're going to be going up 2, and we're going to be doing to the right, we're going to be going 1. So that's our goal here. So we're going to go up 2. So we're going to go up 1, 2, and then 1 to the right. 1, 2, 1 to the right. Up 2, 1 to the right. Up 2, 1 to the right. Up 2, 1 to the right. Now we're going to do it the other way. We're going to go now backwards. So we're going to go down 2, 1 to the left. Down 2, 1 to the left. Down 2, 1 to the left. Always go from left to right first at our y-axis, and then are at y-intercept, and then from there you can go backwards and see where that line is going to go. So you could see how this is going to be forming. So now let's go ahead and draw up that line through this point, all the way across to there. See if I can get a little bit closer, but that gives you a pretty good idea of what that line is going to be. And really, this is all there is to solving slope-intercept form. Okay, remember, m is our slope, b is our y-intercept. All right, this is our last problem. If you have any more questions, bring them up the next day, and that's it. So we'll see you then.